where there was literally someone in Montreal that had this quantum healing hypnosis technique training. And there's some levels, and I believe you're at a certain level where you can do this hypnosis to anybody that is interesting.
Oh yeah. It's it was a while to get my level 3 status. It was a lot of work. They didn't make it easy for you, which is the only way I'll respect it. So it was perfect for me.
I understand that.
And I'm really glad that I participated. Out of just seeing myself being able to fit into that kind of work, because I care about people and I want to help people, and that was really the main requirement. And I continued to get I went all the way with it, and that's a surprise to me, because usually would have been onto something else after. Usually every 3 years I'm onto something else.
Right, your cycle,
yeah.
Your cycle of interest,
Always on to the next thing, but it's been over 7 years and I'm still at it, and it's because it continues to inspire me, and I'm continuing to learn.
Exactly.
And when the clients come with things that they need to have healed, it's almost always something to do with me that I need to have healed within myself as well. So
interesting.
I get paid for my time, but I also receive so much healing for my own self. So I'm always very grateful for my clients and their willingness to trust in the process and trust me as their practitioner, to invite me into their personal lives and bring me through their timelines, so that I get to know them a little bit better, and so that I can be a savvy interviewer when I'm accessing and interviewing the higher mind.
Yes, exactly.
So, servir le Canada avant soi-même a son lot de conséquences autant physiques que mentales. Quand je suis sorti des forces, j'ai réalisé à quel point ma santé était importante, puis j'ai aussi réalisé à quel point les vétérans sont un exemple à suivre pour ce qui a trait d'une personne accomplie. Je peux plus servir en tant que fantassin, mais je peux continuer à servir ma communauté avec des compétences et des aptitudes que mon temps dans les forces m'a amené. Donc, vous êtes un militaire actif ou retraité? Vous avez une affectation reconnue par ancien combattant? Alpha Vétéran vous propose le protocole AVIET, qui consiste carrément à un catalogue d'alternatives naturelles partiellement assurées par la Croix-Bleue. Le protocole ne se veut pas strict dans son ensemble, mais évolutif dans sa démarche. Une fois le questionnaire rempli sous le lien ci-dessous, nos conseillers vont vous guider dans la construction de votre profil et répondre à vos besoins dans la quête de devenir le meilleur de vous-même.
A lot of new words,
Yes.
a lot of key words that maybe I've heard in a video, but maybe not everybody has heard. Because when I think about hypnosis, I imagine, of course, Hollywood films with a watch in front of my eyes as it goes left to right, and after, at a certain moment, with a snap or something, would create that hypnosis state. And after that, what I've understood is that this person that would be doing this hypnosis is at a certain level in the driver's seat of the mind of this person that is under hypnosis. Yeah. And after that would go, I don't know, change some aspects, put some barriers inside of the mind, maybe anchor psychological anchors of stop smoking, stop drinking, stop this, stop that, actions or behaviors that certain people have. But is there a difference between the quantum healing hypnosis technique and hypnosis?
Yes, traditional hypnosis will not use theta state, theta brainwave state.
What is that?
It's when the mind is awake but the body is asleep. So we go into theta all the time. We do it when we're driving. How did I get from one light to the next? Where was I? Well, that was your higher mind driving the car, keeping you safe while you went off and interacted with a different interface with a different frequency or dimension, or you just needed to go on autopilot. Maybe you needed to rest or whatever. So theta brainwave state, just before coming up out of sleep, just before waking up, just before falling asleep at nighttime, all of a sudden, have you ever had that where you just wake up you're just about to fall asleep at night and you wake up and an idea comes and it just wakes you right up.
Yeah.
Or maybe you drift off into sleep anyway, but you remember that moment. It wasn't, you're still able to fall asleep. The same thing waking up. You like all of a sudden that first thought that comes in is usually a solution to something that especially if you go to bed at night with the question. That's a really good practice to undergo, by the way.
To go to bed with a question.
Go to bed with a question, because at some point that answer is going to come in either through the dream state, or in the theta just before falling asleep. It might come sooner than that, or it might come just as you're rising, as you just before waking up. So that's the theta brainwave state that we use. And the reason why traditional hypnosis never used that state was because they feared it, because it's a very open-ended capacity where anything could happen. And Dolores said, well, exactly, anything can happen. And she had a lot of guidance in her work as she was developing her technique as to how to not how to work with theta and why not to fear it. That not only is it the safest state to be in, because your higher consciousness has got your back, it's never going to let anything happen that's inappropriate for you, or that might be good for you, but you're not ready for it, which and to really trust it, because you're in the highest state of manifestation.
Theta.
Theta is the pure state of manifestation.
Is there another word?
For theta?
Yeah. En français, ça serait être dans lune.
Ouais.
Être dans lune. Ça serait quoi un autre aspect d'être dans lune?
Il n'y a pas une autre meilleure façon, je pense, que ça. Là.
Theta, trance. Dans une transe.
Même encore là, je suis pas sûr. Je pense plus que ça serait être dans lune.
Ouais.
Parce qu'en transe, tu vis vraiment comme quelque chose. Être dans lune, comme elle dit, tu sais, ton body, il est là, ton mind il est là, mais tu sais,
Ouais.
Moins connecté ou plus connecté.
So trance, theta. Do you have other ideas of
hypnosis?
Okay.
You're accessing the subconscious mind.
Right.
So you're not in the linear mind, the analytical thinking mind. You're more in the intuitive nature of yourself.
You're right.
That part's what's you're accessing and giving yourself the transmission through. So it's a very consensual experience.
It has to be.
It has to be. And you can have a facilitator there. It's ideal your first time around, but you don't need to, going forward, Dolores' method is to get you to do the work, to teach you how to do the work. If the client learns how to do it for themselves, basically, because the facilitator facilitates them doing it themselves. So anybody that wants to have the work done for them, don't bother, because that's not the method. You should be wasting your time and your money.
That's interesting.
Yeah, which is another thing that resonated with me with my upbringing was, you can't pedal the bike. No one's going to pedal the bike for you.
That exists in so many subjects.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In so many subjects, exactly what we do with veterans. We can't sauver. We can only help. We cannot save.
Right.
And that's the same pattern. Like the person needs to save himself, help himself. We can only help. Same thing with somebody that is drowning. You can't. You don't go save him.
That's right.
That person can bring you in the water with him.
That's right.
So you gotta help with objects, encouragement, this and that.
Right.
So it seems to come back in the QHHT also.
Oh yeah, it's more empowering, and it's downloaded deeper into our subconscious that way, and literally into our cells. So
I imagine, specifically with nobody else.
Well, yeah.
It must be very empowering.
Yeah. But it's extremely supportive, both by our own higher consciousness and the facilitator. One of the great things about this work is, if you're a compassionate person and you really care about helping people, this really is the only requirement to learning to do this work. So if there's anyone out there that's curious about doing this work themselves, and you're that kind of person, you'd be surprised at what a great fit you could be for this work. I mean, you have to be patient. People always say you're extremely patient. But it's just because I've been through so much in my life. I've walked through so many rings of fire. It just boggles my mind, the things that people come and tell me about when we're doing the energy psychology aspect, which is labeled in QHHT as the interview. It's the first portion of the session. What they've been through, and they're sitting right in front of me, and it's like, you're still here?
Yeah.
What? Like, I've been through some stuff, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm pretty colorful that way. And this is how I can share, is that I've found resources that got me out of the hole.
Exactly.
You know, I'm not just book smart. I've got some life experiences in this lifetime, in this body.
Yeah.
Where I've literally had to reincarnate a couple of times in terms of just my fun word of using, you know, a way of evolving and becoming a better human being and doing better. So it blows my mind how strong the human spirit is, the human heart, you know. That's why I named my brand Taurus 9, because the Taurus represents the toroidal field, which is an electromagnetic. I'm going off a quick tangent here, but
That's okay.
It's an electric magnetic field that the heart produces. That when you have the right coherence, where there's no obstacles and it's flowing in all the directions that it's supposed to, it has a capacity to energetically communicate 5 miles out to any other life form, including others like us.
Yes.
So where there's discordant energies and entanglements, everything gets revealed. So this is why we want to always make a list before coming to something like this.
Yes.
You want to, what emotional, mental patterns you want to have balanced and put back into place, what physical patterns, spiritual patterns, or questions about your life, who's in it, career, relationship. Write it all down.
Yes.
That's the only form of preparation you need, and don't show up with a cappuccino in your hand either. You know,
so
I see that sometimes people show up with a coffee before their session. It's like, oh, that's the ego at work. Yeah, how you doing? You know,
Oh, you mean
coffee in hand. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I can tell right away how this is gonna go.
you mean
know?
the fact that the person wants to stay awake?
It's just, you tell them beforehand, not, you know, caffeine's okay an hour and a half prior to arrival. But then they show up with a coffee in their hand. I already know the ego's ready to
a counter
to fight.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just like 4 hours in darkness, the first 2 hours.
Yes.
It's actually a must for some people. How do you know? Well, because you're negating why you're there for 2 hours. Why do you find yourself there doing that? Because you need to. Because that's your entry level. This is what's allowing you to get there and have this experience in the first place. So I'll work with the ego.
Yes.
And I see more and more from when Dolores was doing this work to now, and the way we were originally trained. More and more people are hyper alert and hyper aware when they're in the theta state, because the veil is thinning and our consciousness is evolving so quickly. So people are much more aware that they're being hypnotized while they're under hypnosis, because we're accessing awareness, and they're aware we're accessing awareness. So I tell people to get over that too. You know, don't compare it to the way we used to experience hypnosis. And so the healings are done. The higher mind will do the healings if the ego will allow it. So we've got the egoic nature there, sort of observing and listening. And sometimes I'm trained to know when it's popping its head up. And sometimes it's got a valid point to make, but it's just trying to keep the person alive at a base level. It doesn't give a shit how it does it.
Right.
Okay. Is his or her heart beating? Are the lungs
Right.
breathing? Good enough. And then looking over the shoulder, like, what's he or she reading now about, you know, okay, Eckhart Tolle? And so it spiritually dresses itself up like, I got to know about this. So it comes at it from an analytical perspective, because that's how it's designed, and that's okay. We got to accept the ego. I mean, it's not about running away from the ego.
There's
Try
a place.
that and watch what happens.
Yeah.
It'll dig its heels in.
Okay.
Just slows it all down. So as a facilitator, I have to keep that in mind, you know, and I have to keep my ego in check too, because I've seen what the higher mind can do. You know, yet just the day before it's performing surgery and the person doesn't need their anxiety medication or their heart medication. Like, I kid you not. And now I'm dealing with this ego that's not allowing this to happen. I'm like,
Right.
I've got to keep my own. So that's when that compassion to help others hold space for them and let them be where they are.
Exactly.
You know, and I've had people say, you're so patient, and inside it's like, well, I'm not always from the inside, but as
Right.
long as my behavior is of such, well, then that's all that matters.
Yes.
But I'm learning too. You
Yes.
know, and my ego's learning too. And one of the things that people are attracted to me about is that, you know, I keep it real. I'm not, you know, I walk beside you. I don't walk in front of you. That is for sure.
That's interesting.
And whatever you're learning, I'm learning too. And
Okay.
yes, I've gotten myself through this. And yes, you know, I'm using my hall of shame as it's becoming more of a hall of fame, like what we were talking
Yes.
about earlier. It's just kind of like naturally
Yes.
turning out that way because people's wisdom is is started off as their pain.
Yes.
And so coming back to our conversation earlier about the higher mind and how it heals, it will clarify belief systems.
Yes.
It will update the belief systems. It will inform us that we've actually, no, you've healed that. No, you're good. I am. We don't even know because we didn't know what the teaching lessons were from that experience. And because we didn't know, we were not aware that we actually harnessed those teaching lessons and we paid it forward and we've been helping others because we couldn't recognize it. Or we might know, but we don't know we know, or we're discounting it. Because we're busy beating the shit out of ourselves behind closed doors.
Or-
Let's be honest.
Or
you know?
running in this monopoly of a life that we live in.
Yeah, distracted.
Of
you
like
know?
you got to make some money because if I don't pay the counter, I'm gonna be in the streets. So
That's a big one. Poverty
of
consciousness
course.
and that programming. So it deprograms.
yeah,
And as long as the ego's allowing all of this, and we can work with the ego too, because I'll just turn around and say, okay, does the higher mind agree with what the ego has said? And I do that for the recording so the individual can recognize which hemisphere of the brain they're speaking from. Is it the left or right? And I'm already gauging that and studying. I'm really good at pattern recognition with just about anything. Don't ask me how a sport is played, but I'm watching the athletes. I'm tracking movement. I track
understand.
movement. I do
Understand.
that energetically as well. And so I'm always, and behavioral patterns. So I pick up on pattern. That's my skill set. And so I'm already gauging during the energy psychology phase which brain you're speaking from.
right.
And we're often batting back and forth. Well, I know it's not going to be that much different for some in the theta state. And I also know that others, it's going to be vastly different. And
Right.
everyone's different. Like my last client before coming here went straight to source. Went straight to source.
But that's a big jump for people that don't know everything.
So let me clarify.
So maybe
Yeah.
if you permit me, what is your goal? What is your goal when you receive a client or a patient? What is your goal as a QHHT practitioner?
I don't want to hand them the fish.
Mm.
I want to teach them how to fish.
Yes. So that's your goal.
Yeah.
And a patient that comes to see you, either from internet, because like you told me, there's techniques that you can learn from your presence on internet, which is one of your goals also. But let's say a person comes to see you after this listening to this podcast.
Yeah.
What are one of the goals a patient can have to go have a hypnosis, but not any hypnosis, a QHHT?
Thank you for bringing that up. I appreciate that. So what I've done was, not everyone can get to me in person, and
Yes.
if you want a real, the way Dolores Cannon did it, QHHT experience, you have to come see me in person. Level 3 practitioners are guaranteeing you that the work is pure and it's not diluted or married with any other aspect. It's our personality that brings it in its own energetic signature form, our own life experiences that makes one level 3 different from the other. And it's always a vibratory match. So I tell people, don't pick me because I'm a level 3. Pick me because there's something about my image. You're connecting to the picture. Your intuition says, yes, it's her. Because it's not always about the level 3, because by the time you're level 2, you already know everything you need to know. Okay? And enough experience to facilitate a professional and safe and, a high enough efficacy level experience as a practitioner. It's who do you resonate with?
Yes.
So what I've done is, because I want to be accessible internationally, I want to be more accessible to the world. So I've taken aspects of the work, I've broken them down, and I've made it available online through a Zoom session.
Yes.
Not everyone wants to sit there 4 and 5 hours. Not everyone wants to pay the full price. It's $600. And some people...
Plus come to Montreal.
To come see me in person in Montreal. It's not always appropriate. Some people need an answer right away. There's something pending. It's a business deal, or it's like, what do I do? It's
relationships, whatever.
Or they're lined up for surgery and they're like, fuck, I don't want that surgery. Or I just came home with these pills and I really don't want to take these pills.
Right.
There's something in me that's just not wanting this right now.
That human feeling.
It's just like it's in the guts, and they want to access, and they don't. So what I've done was I've created something called spiritual mentoring, because that's a big part of what I do in QHHT, and I've been doing it for 30 years.
Right.
I've been working with the higher mind long before I even knew that that's what it was.
Right.
And so QHHT also, Julia Cannon, Dolores' daughter, developed Soul Speak. So I'm trained in Soul Speak. So I use what's called a Soul Speak protocol to help people access their higher mind just in a Zoom session. And it's a lighter state of trance. But I say that, but I've seen people go into a deeper state of trance on a screen sitting up than I've seen them lying down with me in person.
Interesting.
So again, it's an individual thing, okay? But the time span doesn't take as long. They learn the protocol that they can apply, and here's, do you want to fish right now to eat, or do you want to eat for a year? Here's the thing, is that they can take that protocol and use it any time, and they can share it with others and help them as well. Here's what I've learned, you could do this. And the protocol is how to speak to your higher mind, how to recognize what it is. So basically you're getting everything in a QHHT, you're just getting a lighter version of it.
Yes.
And I'll give you all the time you need. Like, you want to go longer, we can go longer.
Understand.
Yeah. And so I'm very, very passionate about seeing more of that right now, because then I know I'm helping more people.
So
and that's what I'm really showing up for. What is the right action? And that's part of the protocol that I use. It's one of the first questions you ask of the higher self. You ask the question, the higher self gives you the answer, and then you say, well, what do you want me to know about? And then you say, what is the right action to take? And you always want to trust the first thing that pops in. It's a very blanket response. It's very simple. It's not fancy. It's not that you won't get more answers and details, but it's not a colorful story. Once you hear the part of the mind that starts storytelling, you know that that's the ego. That's the ego trying to play God or be spiritually dressed up. And God bless it. It's doing the best it can. But it's like Dolores Cannon said, that she called the ego Mr. Stupid, because it's so stupid it doesn't even know it's stupid. You know what I mean?
A little bit.
So if you would like some upgraded skills, maybe you could shut up and learn something. Like, I'll talk to them that way. I'm a dog on a bone. I'm a gum on a shoe. I want accountability.
Yes.
I want them knowing what hemisphere of their brain is talking.
It has to
because
happen.
sometimes the ego tries to get in there and pretend to be the higher mind.
Yes.
I'm trained to know the difference. And if I'm not sure, I know what to do to get to that. So when I'm sure, I want it on the recording. I want the client sure. It's organic. It's messy. It's not, it might, some people use really high-minded woo-woo concepts. God bless them out there talking about the work, about what's possible, but that's not my thing. I'm in the trenches. I'm in the down, in the dirty.
Yes.
Because I've had to walk through it, and I'm more interested because I know where healing starts.
Exactly.
And that's where I work in.
Exactly.
It's not that these things don't happen. It's not that, ETs don't come in and, wild stuff happening. But I'm not drawn to the work for that. I think it's great, but that's not why I show up. And here's the thing. Here's what the higher mind said through one client. I get all my great material through clients. It's amazing.
Yeah, you grow through your treatments. Yeah.
Oh.
Sure.
Yeah, you learn, you become, okay.
But this is really good for the nervous system, because then the nervous system can sort of get some space and distance. Oh, this already happened. I'm not reliving this. And that's the help of the practitioner, by the way. If someone is arriving on the death scene, I can help them calm down and remind them, hey,
What-
this is not
what does
happening
that
right
mean?
now.
Okay.
Well, a lot of people are
Death scene.
are waking up on the battlefield.
Oh,
A lot of souls are here because they've been in World War I and II.
okay.
Those of us that are in a life with us now, they've been in World War I and World War II, and they're back now for what's going on now because they want some redos.
Right.
You know, they were wiped out a little too quick, and they're back to get some shit done.
Yes.
Okay, and that could be a guy in an office in a high rise with nothing to do with seemingly
Combat or war.
right,
Yeah,
but they're here. Their presence here
Right.
on some level that we don't know and recognize because it's really none of our business
Yeah.
are helping.
Right.
That's a pre-birth decision.
I'm feeling like fucking goosebumps.
Yeah, so am I. I'm like, my right side is just taking off right now. And that's our intuition telling us that what we are hearing right now is truth. And that's probably the collective of these souls right now here with us saying, hell yeah, we're here. So they got some unfinished business.
So past life.
Past lives. And we're seeing a lot. So almost everybody has at least one life where they're waking up on the battlefield. Okay, or they're at war with something, and it's not just World War I and II. These are tribal wars. These are, they're warriors. They're they got a grass skirt. They're in bare feet. You always ask them look down at your feet, and they tell you are you wearing anything in your head? On your head, are you carrying anything? So it doesn't really matter what timeline. And they're all here. So if you're here in a life, chances are you're a badass warrior. You've been here before, and you've done some stuff, and you're here because you can be here. And so a lot of people have gone through a lot. I said earlier, and you're still here. It's like, yeah, because I can be. I haven't lost my body. I've been through some stuff, but my body's not too sick, and I can still carry on and move forward. So that it's very helpful. I see a lot of that. We all see a lot of that in QHHT.
So you mean you're doing the session?
Yeah.
And this is
I'm helping them forgive what happened in that lifetime because they brought in non-forgiveness because they didn't process their life.
they died.
They died, and they were
No
in the
conclusion.
earth plane for too long without realizing that they were even dead because the death was so sudden. And they're messed up.
So they died quickly and they stayed there?
No, they jumped into another life right away. They didn't process it.
Right.
They're like, hell no.
So
I'm
is
going
it
back.
so is
And
that
I'm not done yet.
That gets messed up.
so they bring that in
They
this
bring that in, and that all needs to get addressed. Once it's addressed, it goes.
it passes.
Yeah.
Like a shit.
Yeah, it
Okay.
just flies away.
And after that, not a reincarnation again, but a sort of rebirth of thoughts because
Well, when you're
It's
not
concluded.
clearing weight,
Yes.
that's right.
It-
It's concluded.
so
It's come full circle.
yes, it's honestly okay. Now what's next?
It's processed.
Yes,
And it's like, okay, what's next?
yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Not because of what happened here today, and
That's right.
or in the past 30 years, or in this life.
That's right.
It's what's been hanging of the past life.
That's
and
right.
and what if you and everything you're saying, you've heard from your sessions or from the training or everything.
Both.
Yeah.
Both.
Yeah.
We when we were trained, we were told that we could expect this, and sure enough.
And
Sure enough.
can you share a personal experience of one of your of something that was said and how it was said?
Through a client, you mean?
Yeah.
She came to see me with some issues. We went through the past life regression. She actually saw future life.
What is that? Past life regression.
Past life regression is
Yeah.
where you regress the client into a past life.
Okay. So the hypnosis has begun,
Yeah.
and she's in the thesis.
Theta state.
Theta state. Okay.
So I've just read the script where I've induced her into theta,
Okay.
and you bring them to the beautiful place, and that's where the scene starts to get set. And it's just like stepping on the platform. Like, I'm not a Trekkie, but the Star Trek shows where they would step on the platform, and the particles would come in, and you would watch the particles come in until they got to the scene. All their particles had to come
back.
in.
That teleportation moment.
That's right. That
Yeah.
had to. It's literally like that.
Okay, but not
Right.
not
So
3D.
they're getting bits and parts, but they haven't quite figured it out yet. They don't perceive themselves as a body yet. Look at your feet. I don't see my feet. They're still coming in.
And the eyes
But
are
they're
closed?
seeing a scene.
And the eyes are closed?
Their eyes are closed.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's imagination.
Yeah, it's coming through the realm of imagination, which is a very real realm.
Yes.
I mean, this couldn't get here. This mic couldn't have gotten here without a thought, without someone imagining it first. Very real thing.
This studio.
So this is a realm. This
Yes.
is a form of how manifestation comes through. It's also considered by some called the mind of God.
Interesting.
How-
Imagination.
yeah, or whatever you perceive God to be.
Yes.
And so they don't even, their bodies aren't there yet, but their consciousness is there and they're observing the scene. So she did arrive in a war. There was a war going on. No one was around. She'd lost her family, and she was a young male. She was in a healthy body. I always get this clarified. You're in a healthy body or a sick body. What are you wearing? You ask open-ended questions to get them to formulate. You don't influence them, and that's the questioning is key in this work. Okay, this is the skill set.
I believe
that
the
makes
confidence
all
also.
the difference.
The confidence also.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because you're not implanting.
No, you can't.
You are asking.
Right.
Yeah.
And the patient is the creator.
Right. Absolutely.
Not the
100%.
creator, but yeah.
Yeah. And if you got someone helping us along, we're going to formulate what it is we're meant to, if they're doing it right.
Si vous êtes comme moi, puis vous êtes souvent sur la route, que ce soit au Québec ou à la grandeur du Canada, vous savez que c'est facile de s'éparpiller puis d'oublier les choses importantes derrière. C'est pourquoi j'utilise le AVET Medbag. Ça me permet d'avoir mes documents légaux, mon cannabis médical, mes vitamines, même mes documents pour mon chien d'assistance et, comme tout bon soldat, crayon papier. Ça me permet d'avoir la bonne habitude, d'avoir mes documents légaux avec moi, d'être responsable, mettre mes médicaments dans un sac fermé et la paix d'esprit de tout avoir ça à portée de la main. J'ai besoin de partir en quelque part, je pogne mon sac, je lance ça dans mon char, puis je sais que je suis en bonne et due forme pour me promener. Le AVET Medbag est en vente maintenant sur le lien ci-dessous. N'importe qui participe au protocole AVET pour améliorer leur santé globale va avoir un rabais de 22% en honneur du 22e régiment. Ouh.
Right.
Okay. And of course, the more experience you have, the better. And so finally, he in that lifetime lost his wife, lost his kids. Everyone was killed. And the whole community was basically wiped out. And so, let's walk around a little bit. Let's sense the environment. So you get them moving and they start to feel their bodies and they're moving. They start to feel the ground. Get them moving. Where would you like to go? Have a look around. And they wound up at a waterfall and they found a couple of people from their tribe. And then she went, and usually when someone goes to a war scene like that, I know they're going to wind up in World War I or II. There's going to be another one coming. There usually is. Not always, but most of the time. And sure enough, it was World War I.
What do you mean by that?
That was her second lifetime. But I had to get her to forgive the life and to take me to your last day, take your breath, pass over to spirit side. Now look at that life. What did you learn? Why did your soul choose that life? What did you learn? And they processed. And
that's happening with you. That's what's going on.
That's right. And now the soul's ready to move on.
Through the eyes closed, talking loudly, but I mean,
That's right.
Yeah, literally going through it, and that person can through the thesis mode.
That's right. And that's what you won't get with me online. What you'll get is accessing the higher mind and get the answers you need and get the healings you need. Clear up your chronic sinusitis,
right.
or get the higher mind to tell you should you take that surgery
right.
or not, or whatever. That's a quick route, but I'm not going to take you through past life regression.
Right.
Okay, that's the difference.
That's very clear. Thank you.
And so the second war she wound up in was World War I or World War II. Actually, it wasn't really clear to me, and it didn't really matter. Again, a male. And same pattern, lost everything. And it was the same pattern because that tribal war wasn't dealt with. So they found themselves in another war, and it was the same stuff that they were creating and drawing to them and gaining and losing. It was like the same, but in a different timeline. Same issues that were not dealt with.
Do you? Yes.
No, go ahead.
Do you believe every death in combat or quick death in combat? No, quick death
Yep.
will create something that will be carried.
Not necessarily, but
Okay.
it certainly can. It's
Is
typical.
yes.
It's typical.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Not always, but it's typical. It depends on how evolved that soul is.
Yes.
What civilization they're from.
Yes.
It depends. The variables are vast as to why, but I do see a pattern that I recognize.
Yes.
That is more of that.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. Any kind of violent, quick death.
Can't-
Or any kind of, back to conviction again, any kind of conviction that was going on in that moment, depending on what that person and their belief system in that moment, depending on how identified to that role they were.
Yes.
And a lot of people were leaders of they had groups that they had to lead in war that a lot of responsibility was falling on them.
And conviction, I guess. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
And you know what? I don't think that I can remember I've ever had anyone who wasn't a leader of some group in a war. It's usually the ones that had heavy responsibility on them to lead others through some kind of war scene that wind up at these QHHT sessions. And they're usually carrying a lot of weight that they self-impose and pressure, and the body is dealing with some kind of manifestation of that pressure. And I know why they're finding me, because I'm the same.
Right.
Si votre intérêt a été piqué et vous voulez en savoir plus, nos épisodes complets se retrouvent sur Rumble et Spotify. Vous n'avez qu'à cliquer sur le lien ci-dessous dans la description et venez regarder des gens passionnants qui veulent, comme nous, continuer à servir.
Continuez à servir. Réseautage. Santé globale. The only rule is to survive.